Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 4, class 4 of our Consultation Masterclass. So I'm Lou and I am joined by Dario right here with me. I'm sure you're all well and truly acquainted with Dario now as we are halfway through our Consultation Masterclass. So this is an 8-week series, and if this is your first one that you're joining us for, welcome along. It's so lovely to have you here with us. If you would like to touch up base on any of the other masterclasses we have done so far, make sure you check them out on our IGTV or on our Facebook series, Consultation Masterclass. Now, tonight, or this morning, UK, it is all about emotions. And Dario has an amazing presentation for us that he's going to run through very, very shortly. But I did just want to say, if you do have any questions at all for this class, please pop them in the comment section and I'll keep an eye on those as we're going through. So don't be shy, ask us anything at all. And if you came along to Monday, you'll know that Dario is great on the spot with getting to some of those. So emotions. Tonight is all about talking about how to manage your emotions, and we'll be really focusing on 4 chemicals that play a big part in that. So dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and cortisol. Dario is going to be sharing his tips and techniques for boosting or reducing our feelings and helping us grow our mindset. So over to you, Dario, to kick us off.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Lou, and welcome everyone to episode number 4. It's been really dynamic. And thank you for all the lovely feedback from our Monday cutting seminar. It was amazing. So we'll go on to the first slide and I'll just walk you through in terms of what we're going to be walking you through tonight. So tonight's really about emotions. And what I find in hairdressing is we're so busy, worried and concerned about other people. And what I found in my years of experience is that if we're good, everyone else is good. So we'll get into the first slide. So I really want to focus on what drives your raw feeling is your emotions. So what drives your raw emotions? If you're feeling anxious, you have to change your feeling. And this is something that I focus on a lot. If it feels like you've taken the stupid pill when you're under pressure, it's about smooth, rhythmic breathing, same breath in, same breath out. And until you can control your physiology, anyone can make you look like an idiot. So what I try to share with hairdressers is stay in your lane. Don't try and talk about things that are outside your experience level. So if you're a younger hairdresser and someone asks you a question that you're unqualified for, you just have to be very honest with your guest saying, if you'd like to know the answer, I can ask the color technician next time they come in, or I can ask the product company next time they come in. So take the problem offline. We're not expected to know everything. And, I just find that when we've got those raw emotions, it does feel like we've got the stupid pill because we stop breathing. We lose our rhythm in our breathing. And so we're not getting enough oxygen into our brain. Therefore, things start to slow down and you really feel like your world's getting smaller. Where I like hairdressers, the world to get a lot bigger. So we've got more room to play in. And so the idea of this is smooth rhythmic breathing is, if you're a person that struggles with conscious breath, then what I suggest you do is 4 seconds in, breathe, hold for 4 seconds, and then breathe out for 4 seconds. And if you do that consciously, twice an hour, then you'll keep your system really nice and cool. If you're a person that suffers from high levels of anxiety, then I suggest that we go 4 in, hold for 4, and then 6 out. And the mantra that I have in my head is when I'm breathing in, I say to myself, the air that I'm breathing in is cleaning my mind. And when I breathe out, I say the air that I'm breathing out is, I'm releasing all the tension from my body right now as I'm breathing out. So we'll go to next slide. Okay, so emotions are so powerful. Anyone can heat up your system, but really it's you doing it to yourself. So I hear a lot of victim talk when I am out, whether it be in industry or in society, and where people say someone made me feel bad or someone made me feel like this. And it's how we feel about what we're hearing, and it's what we take on. So I really put onus that we're doing it to ourselves. So if we're sitting in a negative emotions, we're anxious, we've got anxiety, we've got anger, we've got frustration. If we're sitting in a positive emotion, then we're passionate, determined, and we're focused. So it depends on where you sit in this, depending if you've got ownership or victim. And I really like to have honesty within myself because I don't like to be subjective. I like to be subjective, not objective about what I'm hearing. So I want to be really clear about that it's factual based. I'm not trying to kid myself into saying things that didn't really happen. So we'll go to the next slide. And just down the bottom of that slide was, if you can intelligently control your breath, then, if you can intelligently direct your emotions, then you're on your way, sorry. Because you've got to be really intelligent. I really believe everyone's got the capacity. I look at myself in my career from where I was at the age of 13 to where I'm at now. It's all come through education. So if you can every day just slowly increase your level of responsibility within yourself, then all of a sudden within a short period of time, you'll have a much bigger capacity to cope with things that used to stress you out before you were more aware or self-aware. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So most people's emotions are based on what's going on outside of them. And if you're Italian, you'll really get this. Greek, Lebanese, European. So how you feel is not about other people, it's about you. So we have to go from victim to ownership. And that's a really hard step because some of us have been talking about things for so long, and that's our story. And that's a story that potentially gets attention from others. But ultimately, do we want to be respected based on what we're talking about in the past? Or do we want to be respected about what we're bringing into the present and moving into the future? And that's a choice we all have to make. So basic breathing rhythmically, evenly through your heart every day. And that's when you are breathing, I want you to channel all that breath through your heart so you can feel really connected to life. And I really love that reset moment. Breathing consciously is a reset to bring you back into the present moment. And you'll realize that it's really how we choose to look at things. And if you start to look at them for what they are, you can actually laugh a lot more, which I laugh a lot because a lot of things that used to really annoy me don't really annoy me anymore. I just laugh a lot because they're so small. And sometimes we make things big, we're acting in that victim mentality. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so your actions are not your own. So I love this part of the chat. So we have, in your brain, we have our limbic system, which is, so in your brain, you have your neocortex, your limbic brain, and your dinosaur brain, which is the reptilian brain. So really these functions, and what I started to learn, I wanted to learn why I was behaving or reacting the way I behaved. And I really want to focus this chat about our limbic system, which is if you're creative, that's the system that really drives all of our emotions. So that's really what I want to focus on in this talk. We'll go to the next slide. So if we look at our brain, deep in our brain, chemicals that drive us. So we have on the right here on our screen, you'll see a branch going away to motivation, loyalty, emotions, trust, drives behavior. So this is someone that's got quite an emotional mind, very visual hairdresser. But if you've got someone that's very analytical and very auditory, they're very data-driven, rules, logic, and facts. So what I like to do is I really like to engage my guests and understand how do they like to take and engage with information. And so once I understand that, the way they talk to me, I'll then chameleon mirror back to them. And I tend to match and mirror people in terms of what's going on and really try to get as much, make my client feel safe within a world that they like to communicate in, because I see far too many times hairdressers, and every day I'm getting more hairdressers talk to me about this, that, when you hear people talk about that client was weird or what was, that person was, really disruptive, then, if you have one every now and then, I kind of get it. But if you get them all day, every day, then we have to be very reflective on, we need to be the change. And the only way, if we change, they change. So we'll go to the next slide.
I was just going to ask on this, let's say you've got a client that comes in, do you have any things that help you identify, let's say, which side they're working in and which side to communicate with them from?
Yeah, yes, it does. And for me, it's really about understanding their modality when they start talking to you. So, if they turn their head to the side when you're talking, you clearly know they're auditory. So that's a great...
Yeah.
If you've got a client that repeats after you what you mean because they're analytical, but if you've got a client bringing in a picture to you and selling you a really great story, then she's on the right side because she's more emotionally driven and she's very visual. And so it's really, when we start to look at the modality, and obviously on the right side here, when we talk about people that are kinesthetic as well, that like to touch and feel. And so if you can start to drive your communication in a very client-centric way, then all of a sudden you start really creating what I call these amazing dinner party experiences with your guests, and what I call memorable experiences. And we want to have as many memorable experiences with our guests, because ultimately we want to keep on, I think we're creatures of, familiarity, and we love things that are very familiar. And clients really don't want to leave. They really don't want to leave. I think it's very hard for someone to leave and change. So we've got to be doing something really wrong to lose a client. And I think this is an opportunity for us to connect deeper on a much deeper level. Okay, yeah, next slide. Thank you. So feelings are chemicals produced by our 4 chemicals. So we'll go into the first one. Thank you. Okay, so dopamine. I love the burger there. I haven't had dinner yet. So the idea of dopamine's, if you get the hit, if you hit the goal, you'll get the reward. Dopamine's your neurotransmitter chemical messenger. So ultimately, dopamine's that feel-good chemical that interacts with pleasure and reward system in our brain. So dopamine plays a vital role with how we feel. In addition to mood, dopamine affects movement, memory, and focus. That's why it's very important for hairdressing, particularly memory, focus, movement. You also get dopamine when you eat. So that's why we enjoy eating. So it's a bit like at the end of a hard day, you're looking back and going, oh, that tastes so good, because your body's craving that. So we've got dopamine's highly addictive, by the way. So when you think of people that are smoking, they're addicted based on the dopamine they get. It's that neurochemical transmitter that every time they light up a cigarette, they get that. Alcohol, mobile phones, gambling, all these things are centered around dopamine. So
burgers.
One thing I like to talk about with particularly younger hairdressers, because it's about behavior, is if we create a series of really good habits, and they don't have to be really small habits every day, and keep ourselves really disciplined. And I laugh, really going off script here, I laugh at how many times I've been around creative people that will tell me reasons not to be dopamine. Reasons not to be disciplined.
Right.
And I laugh when I see dysfunction. So when I say I laugh, I don't laugh at them. I just laugh in terms of someone trying to prove me wrong in this space. See, for me, success isn't a skill. Yeah. For me, success isn't a skill. It's something that success is based on your habits. And so if you develop really good habits, then you become successful. And when I see people trying to really be a bit of a cowboy or a cowgirl in terms of that, winging it through a client experience and at the client's expense, because it's about them, not the client, then when that client's never going to come back. And when I see people in my classes trying to talk really quite disrespectful in terms of discipline, well, they're never going to make it, unfortunately. And I try to really help them understand that you have to be disciplined like an athlete. You have to wake up. You have to visualize yourself as an Olympic athlete. What are you training for every day? Like, what's the event you're training for in life? Is it for success? Is it to build yourself a beautiful home for your family? Is that what success means? Or is it having a holiday next time we're allowed to get on a plane? And so you've got to get something that gets you up in the morning. And I also suggest for younger hairdressers, dopamine could simply be, walking to the salon today and say, every client to take me home with them in a bottle. And when they do take them home, like purchase a product, you get the dopamine because they're taking you home. Your voice is in the bottle. When they open the bottle, they get all the instructions and all the experience. And it could be that you're going to be more suggestive today. And you're going to say, I'm going to give myself a target of 2 people are going to have a treatment today because I care about their hair more than they do. And so as soon as you get the result, you get the dopamine, and that you need dopamine because dopamine fills up your tank. And so I call it deposit withdrawal. I deposit really all my energy into every single guest, and I get the withdrawal at the end when they look at themselves and they see a newer version of themselves. And then all of a sudden I feel fresh and reset. But if you're feeling burnt out, we're giving our energy not so disciplined in terms of getting the results that we need to get the client, or perhaps we're not being client-centric and giving the client what she truly needs. We're maybe giving her what we think she needs.
It's a great idea, even creating those goals for yourself to almost be a tool that will then create, dopamine for you. The fact that you can come up with those goals, those daily things that you're going to reach, and you will start to feel good when you're making those targets that you've set for yourself.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
Yes. And a great tip for salon owners watching this is have a daily playlist that you play at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And it's your playlist, it's one song, it's your salon song. And you put it on before clients come in and you'll get dopamine. And when your clients leave at the end of the day when you're cleaning, you'll get dopamine. Brilliant. And it's a very accessible drug. Now, some tips to boost your dopamine is exercise regularly, enjoy your music. This is music that lights you on fire, and set goals. And they don't have to be buying a house. They could simply be, today I'm going to change someone's life today. I want someone to walk away with a makeover. That's actually going to walk something that's not been booked in. I'm going to suggest something. And when they do have it, you know, you get the dopamine. And also you have to enjoy the challenge, because we're here to have fun. We're not here to punish ourselves. And I think when I'm teaching with my students, even last night when I was teaching, you've got to have joy in what you do. Otherwise, why are we doing it? Okay, so we'll go to the next one. So serotonin, love this, the leadership chemical. So serotonin is a chemical that has a wide variety of functions in the human body. It's sometimes called the happy chemicals because it contributes to well-being and happiness. So it's vitally important. It links an overall satisfaction. So you can see why it's very important. Serotonin actually offers up quite a few additional benefits for your health. Besides help regulating mood, serotonin is needed for motor skills and cognitive functions. So when I see hairdressers go to work 5 minutes before they open, there is no way you've got motor skills and a cognitive function down pat. So, you know, I really try and help hairdressers understand that before you go and see 8 humans and guide 6 to 8 humans for the day, you have to really do a self-check-in with yourself. So I usually go somewhere quiet in the morning, whether it be to breakfast by myself. If you don't have that luxury, find a quiet space within your home before you leave. Some of us catch a train or a bus to work or an Uber. And in that quiet space in your head is I want you to start looking at, you know, some really happy events, some family photos of really good times in your life. This is the access that you have to serotonin. I used to travel a lot. And the minute I got on the plane, I started looking at photos of my beautiful children, and it just made me feel loved. And it gave me the feeling that I needed in that moment to feel a lot more happier, because, you know, it's very hard when you're traveling, or it could be you're feeling tired or lonely because you're just working so hard. There's really quick ways to boost your serotonin is that bright light. You know, I think salons need to be a lot brighter. You know, having natural light's really important, but bright light gives you a great boost of serotonin. Sunlight gives you serotonin. If you can't, then supplements will help you with this. And you've got to remember happy events. So therefore, on my phone, I have so many great events in my calendar. And I will say, on my screen, I have this widget app, and every hour I have positive quotes come up on my widget app. You know, and so it's a great thing that my 11-year-old got me onto.
Is it called widget app?
Yeah, it's a widget, and it's motivation. The app's called Motivation, but it's called a widget. My 11-year-old took over my phone about a month ago, and she put this cool thing on there, and she says, "Hey, Dad, every hour you get sent really cool, positive quotes."
That's amazing.
And yeah, and it just reminds me to be present and be really grateful. And it's because our phone's on us, you know, 12 hours of the day. It's become a vital source for our, you know, for me, using those widgets. It's really been great. I look up sometimes and I go, yeah, right. Bring me back to being grateful and present.
Another one that's great that I use is Momentum, and it's a Chrome extension. So if you've got the computer in the salon,
yes,
every time that you open the internet, whatever it may be, it will come up with the same thing, brand new screen, beautiful picture of the outdoors with a quote for the day.
Love it.
And you
Love
can
it.
set actually a goal for yourself in there as well. So really another really cool one, Momentum.
Great. Awesome. I love it. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. Okay, so oxytocin. So oxytocin has to be right up there with my dopamine. I love this. It's not bad manners, it's low oxytocin. So if you've got a person that's coming in that's a bit brittle, you may be a bit brittle yourself. You may have a staff member that's feeling a bit brittle. And what I mean by brittle is you can feel the vibe in the salon be very self-inward and absorbing. And so what I generally do is I encourage hairdressers to put on peaceful piano on Spotify, the playlist. And what you need to do is put on classical music for about minutes, and that will give them oxytocin. So it's a great way to get out of your head, because when you're ruminating and you're focusing on what's going on in that monkey brain, is that nothing great's going to come out of it. you've got to get out of your head. So classical music just allows you to relax. And once you relax, the moment passes. And then all of a sudden you're being more present. So it's really great. So every time I get a client coming in going, oh, the traffic, I quickly go to peaceful piano and I just change it. And everyone knows what's going on because we all want harmony in the space. So oxytocin is a hormone that acts as a neurotransmitter in the brain. It's associated with good feelings and emotions. So it's very important. So say, for instance, a color doesn't work out in a salon, whether you're in beauty or you're in hair. And, you may have just started this job or you may be experienced and it's not going out well and you're feeling a bit self-conscious, but you've got to ask for help. And because, more minds are better than, when you're especially in that moment where things aren't quite working out, and they will happen. You perhaps have a situation where a client's color's not taking as well as you thought it would. You go out the back, you ask for help, and then you go over to the guest of the basin and everyone's looking overhead and help. And you may be a bit embarrassed. It's a bit like someone in my class cutting a section off too short. They get a bit embarrassed. Sometimes people they freeze, and I just remind them that everything's a learning experience. So if you go with it, it'll take you through this beautiful journey of growth. But if you don't go with it, then it will be too repetitive because you won't learn anything from it. So I don't mind going through things if you're going to learn something from it, because it's a university of life. And so one of the things that, when you, so for instance, you're at the basin, my tip to you, by the way, if the color doesn't work out and you need to do another application, all you have to do is sit in front of the guest, lean down towards her, get on her eye level, and you say, well, your hair's really thirsty today, and we're gonna have to put another application because it's just really absorbing all that color, which is really great. But we just want to put on another application to just make sure that we land so you create more of a sustainable palette. So it's a really different way to give your client love versus saying it didn't take and there's something wrong and your guest becoming conscious that perhaps what you're doing up there is not quite working out. Now, the kicker of oxytocin is when your client leaves and you've made it right, you will have such a bond with your team that you made it right together. So it's a very team bonding drug. And I do encourage salons to collaborate and bringing minds together, particularly if you're in a situation where you need help in the back room. And we do use codes in the salon to talk about that we need help in a very positive way. And I encourage you to write down some codes for your salon. It's a bit like if my salon was a mess, we have a thing like, it's a really beautiful day outside. And that means that the salon's a mess. And so you can develop really nice codes that you can talk in a very positive way without potentially bringing the team down, because you can use some humor behind it. And the staff go, okay, well, Sharon needs help right now because she's just given me the code. Mm-hmm. So it's a great way to interact. So oxytocin gives you that bonding drug. So it also gives us empathy. If you lack oxytocin, you're more likely to become unempathetic and selfish. So if you see a client being really selfish and unempathetic when they're talking to you, it's because they lack oxytocin. So you get oxytocin through touch, by the way. I know we're not allowed to touch anymore, but virtual hug. You can tap on your foot, an elbow. But I do like to give my clients that whole virtual hug. Like when they come in, I go, oh, and I do feel it. It's quite amazing because it's an intention behind it. And when people leave, I'm very much into making sure that I do love my family. They're very big. They're my biggest fans. And I just please, remind all hairdressers out there that anyone coming into your chair is a fan of yours. So if that's not confidence enough, I don't know what is. So some tips to boost your oxytocin is give money away. And, I'll be putting my phone number up at the end that you can donate. Joke. I do that a lot in seminars. Sorry, I can't help myself. And I am a dad, and they are dad jokes. So what I do is when I go to the city, into Sydney, because I'm in Darlinghurst properties and I live in Woolloomooloo, which is the next suburb. When I go to the city, I'll bring $5 or $10. Sometimes when I'm with my kids, I might give them the money and ask them to go donate it to a homeless person. Now, just simply, and I do it prove to my kids that the art of giving is, we have to give unconditionally because we want to help people. And in our industry, we're very fortunate because we help people emotionally and physically in terms of their appearance. But I believe just by this simple act of giving something away unconditionally is you get this restored feeling in your body that you feel you're nurturing your soul, that you're actually helping someone else and you want nothing else back. So the art of giving. Now, even someone watching you do that is going to give them oxytocin. So these again, it could be $1, could be 50 cents. I have one lady in Woolloomooloo that I know very well, and I've known her for about 25 years. She's Indigenous. She's amazing. And I give her $20 every time I see her. She's living on the streets by choice. She's actually got enough money to have a house, and that's her home, on the streets. And she can't help but ask me for money. That's part of her thing. And I know that it's going to food. And, you know, it just makes me feel really good that I know her name, Rose. And I ask her questions when I see her. I go, Rose, how have you been? I give Rose a really big hug. She's part of my social fabric of where I live. She used to sleep on the front door of Tony and Guy when I worked there, you know, and someone used to have to call the police to move her. And then I developed a relationship with her by not asking her name. And so she's really part of my, as I said, social fabric. And I think we've got to care about people that are part of our lives. And so giving money away, being trusted is really important. So if your boss gives you the keys, you get oxytocin, that sense of responsibility, as long as you don't have any after parties in the salon. As I used to tell my staff, there's always secret cameras. So laughing a lot. I laugh a lot. I laugh a lot. Why do I laugh a lot? Well, I've been to so many funerals in my life, and I realize and appreciate the gift of life and living life to its fullest. And what that means for me, not what that means for someone else. Taking a walk. If you feel like you're a little bit overloaded, I go for a walk. Take your shoes off in the park, providing it's not in Darlinghurst, you'll be fine. There's a few junkies around. There's some needles in the park. So call someone you love. And, you know, I call my mom. I have a really strong relationship with my mom. I call her twice a day. And I listen to smooth music when I need to feel soft. I need to heal. You know, if you feel like you've had a full-on day, I don't listen to dance music. I listen to music that's going to make me feel healed. And I don't like to talk a lot when I've finished a big day. My soul needs to recover, restore, and reset for the next day, so I can be at my best for that day. Okay, so we'll go to the next one.
Awesome.
Okay, so this used to be the worst drug for me, but I really want to stress cortisol. I've learned a lot about this drug in particular over the last 12 months. And, you know, it's called the stress hormone. And cortisol is a hormone which mainly released at times of stress and has many important functions in our body. It feels like stress and anxiety as initiates fight and flight mode, or even freeze mode. It feels like you've got tension when you're not sure what's going on, going to happen. That's also why we have anxiety and stress. I just want to really stress on this, is that cortisol is really only meant to keep us alive. That's really its primary function. So if you're walking across the road and you see a car, then you'll get cortisol your body will just go quick run to keep you safe. If you see someone potentially falling over, and you'll get cortisol to try and save them. If you're going to trip over, you'll get cortisol to put your hands out. So it's really designed to keep you, it's not meant to tickle you to keep you alive. It's meant to really jolt your system. Yeah. Where I see in society is I see that people consciously, through rumination, and sometimes it's beyond some people's control, and they have to do a lot of work over a period of time. And anxiety is curable, and it is curable with a lot of work, because you have to be so consciously aware of what's going on and what you tell yourself to not get anxious over it. So this is something I've done a lot of work in. I have a 15-year-old daughter that's got severe anxiety and has panics. And as a hairdresser, I was always quite anxious, particularly on photo shoots. So I started to realize, why am I feeling like this, and how can I get rid of it? And so one tip that I would want to share with you, if you're incredibly anxious, a great tip, if you rub your shoulders like this for about 2 minutes, right? You've got to rub it for 2 minutes really quick up through here, 2 minutes. And if you're highly stressed, you just slightly rock while you're doing it, like you're a little baby held in your mum's arms. And I'm saying this really sincere, with so much sincerity. If you do that for 2 minutes, when you release, you get the most amazing oxytocin flow in your body. Wow. And that's how you change it. And if you're a hairdresser that has a panic attack, the simplest thing you can do is go to your fridge in your salon and hold a block of ice on each hand, yeah? And your mind, you'll go out of your mind into your hands at how cold that ice is. That's, my friend, is how you get out of a panic attack.
Wow.
And you change your mood. You have to do things, you have to actively do things to change, to get out of your head. And,
Yeah.
and I try to help younger hairdressers a lot, because some people feel like that that's the way that it's going to be for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
And it's not. You know, you can move away from anxiety. You really can. And I've seen it. I've been living proof myself when I was younger. And we're helping my daughter through it at the moment. So cortisol is an oxytocin inhibitor. So you can have so much oxytocin in your bank account, and then we choose to have that anxious feeling of, you know, what's that client thinking? What's that client? I hope she's happy. And that's just rumination that's really going to help you, or not going to help you. It's actually going to help steal all that oxytocin and rob your bank of all that hard work you've done. It doesn't want us to be empathetic when we see danger. So if you see a car, you're going to go, oh, is that a blue car? Because you'll get hit by the car. So the idea is that you'll see car run. It wants us to stay alive. So that cortisol makes us unbelievably selfish, paranoid, and stressed and tense. So I do see clients come in late with high levels of cortisol, and we think the client's arrogant. No, person's just stressed that they're 10 minutes late for their appointment.
Something as well, you know, I feel like the world that we live in is often so fast paced. It's slowed down a little bit where I am in Victoria for the last 7 months, but it is so fast paced, and you are constantly fitting in more and more and more. And obviously in the salon industry as well, it is non-stop, back-to-back clients, and that in itself is, you know, it's a higher stress situation, which from talking with other people, we've had a few lives where people have talked about the fact that back in the, you know, let's say when we were caveman days, we would have never been in this consistent state of, you know, high, tense, stressful sort of environment. And quite often, it's always there. Your phone, you're always on. And so that those cortisol levels, it's so easy for them to rise above unless you're actively doing some of those things to bring them back down.
Yeah.
And
my tip to everyone, I turned all my notifications off.
Awesome.
2 years ago.
Great.
And, you know, I had an Apple Watch until recently. I just gave it to my daughter as a gift because she's doing so well at school. And one of the things, I turned off all my notifications because I didn't want to be dopamine driven by ding, ding, somebody needs me, somebody wants me. And I don't care. I really don't care if it's 8 o'clock at night. And, I really made a conscious decision about social media. You know, once we've posted and we've put that in its box, and we've done our research, because we're always looking at stuff that's going on, but I allocate times to things. And a great thing for hairdressers is create worry time. You know, if you're a person that's anxious, give yourself worry time between 6 and 6:05 at night. That's when I'm going to worry. Everything else is about enjoying the day. If email you need to get through, do it in worry time. You do not have to focus on what you get an email right now. You don't have to read it. You know, you get a message, you don't have to read it. If I get a really silly message, I delete that message. I don't have to respond to it. Just because someone asks me a question that's not considered and not nourishing, I don't have to respond to that. And I really learned in communication media training is that, you know, your answer is only as good as your question. So if I'm asked a really, really bad question, I don't have to answer it. I answer with the question I should have been asked with. And sometimes I even say things like, well, the real question is bang, and I redirect back to my guest. I don't really follow someone that's coming from a high cortisol level and trying to make me anxious, because, you know, I do know that misery loves company. And sometimes people want to feel in a state of chaos, because that's where they like to work in. And I really I'm empowered to help hairdressers better understand the power they have of being in control. Every day you wake up is like a birth experience into the world. And that's the way I look when I wake up in the morning. I get really excited as a new beginning, and it's like a new reset. And that's the way I look at the world, purely because I've been at the opposite end when I've been at, you know, someone's funeral, and I'm thinking, wow, you know, every time someone close to me has passed, I'm thinking of how much more I want to enjoy the life that I've been given, and the privilege of being healthy, and the privilege of being of service to people, because it's the best job in the world, absolute best. I mean, you do a great makeover on someone, or you even just tidy someone's hair up, and the way they look at themselves, there's no cortisol. So some tips to reduce your cortisol levels is exercise. Really simple, man. Really simple. And I've been a hypocrite in the past because I've talked about it. I've had a gym membership with Anytime Fitness, and I always said I had no time. So it was no time fitness. And my wife kept on threatening to call them up and cancel my membership. And so I do exercise a lot now, and I meditate once a day for 20 minutes. I don't sit on a rock. I just simply calm my mind. I have a mantra. I had a really good meditation teacher. I play with, you can dance. What's quite funny, just before this live, I had the music on my headphones and I had a little dance. But it's something I'm so happy at the moment.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. And it's a really good place. And I was just laughing at myself. I was like, wow, this is really cool. And my wife would be laughing watching this. So playing with animals are really good to reduce cortisol. If you've had a bad day, give your dog a rash, give your cat a rash, pat it. Just pat it. It's going to love it as much as you're loving it. And I watch a lot of comedies. Like if I'm feeling that things are a little bit overwhelming, I'll watch comedies. Dave Chappelle's probably one of my favorite. And I laugh. And, if you're really going through a really intense period, limit alcohol and caffeine. I don't drink personally alcohol. I don't drink coffee as well, because I just didn't like what they were doing to my system. I like to be a great listener, and I like to be very present for those that I care about. And I'm not a nerd. I'm not like, I just know what's really good for my system. And I know what I like to be. I want to be highly functional when I'm communicating. So, all right, let's go to the next slide.
Awesome.
So if you can control, you can change your life. And that's really what this talk's all about. It's about you changing your life, not me changing your life. And I think when you look back on this recording and you see the tips that we've given you, it's to really help awaken you to the potential that you have. I think people are often reading books and watching programs, and they're trying to follow things that work for other people. What I find works really well, when something hits the chord within you that really resonates, that's for you. And you can hear things and think that's not a me thing, but every now and then you'll hear something that really strikes, it really connects to your soul. And if you can focus on that a lot and develop and really harness that, then you will change your life. But you've got to do it every day, because we're only as good as our habits. And a lot of us have had bad habits that are ultimately stopping us from getting what we want. And I think that's why when I see people on Instagram for so long, or social media, people are living through their phones versus living. And I think we've got to be the movie. I think often we're watching movies, but we've got to be the movie. So when I go to the salon and I'm talking to my client, it's like I'm in her movie or his movie if I'm asking the right questions. It's so interesting to tap into people's lives and get a better sense of who they are. And I think in the past, we were so busy talking about ourselves as hairdressers. I'm not interested in telling people what I've done in my career. That's part of my past. I want to really understand who I've got in the chair and how best I can understand who they are, and to help them connect holistically what's going on inside and help frame it on the outside. So it's more in harmony of what they are on the inside, and really showing that off on the outside. And I think people aren't in harmony. Often people are very conflicted. And I think that's, seeing people quite insecure because they're not being their authentic self. So we'll go to the next slide. I love this. So it's empathy when you put yourself in the place of me. So I'm always conscious to look at my guest when she comes in, and I always try and connect with, I can't imagine what she's gone through to talk like that. So instead of saying client's rude, I firstly think she's in, and I'll just very quickly tell you, I called an Uber last night. I have like 1,000 Uber stories. And I went home last night. My in-laws are here from Adelaide. And I went home last night and I went, you never guess. And my wife's like, another Uber story. And I'm like, yes. But it was full on. I mean, I got into the Uber. I'm in a really good headspace. And the Uber driver's asking me, what do I do for a living? And I told him hairdresser, and I asked him, and he goes, I'm a filmmaker.
Wow.
I said, oh, what are you working on? He goes, it's a passion project. And it went off a cliff in that conversation. I just didn't expect it. He said, I'm making a video about my baby that died at birth.
Oh, wow.
And he told me the whole story of this passion project, of what happened.
Wow.
And I was in his movie.
Yeah.
And I felt, and we connected. When I got out of that car, I looked at him and I went, you keep going.
Yeah.
You know, I totally get why you're doing this documentary. And I think when you've got clients coming in with such an abrasive tone and anger and pain and suffering, well, we've got to heal it, because if you don't heal it, it'll affect you. And the only way to heal it is simply hug people with an intention, I'll look after you. You're safe here. And I do say to clients when they come in very stressed, you know, or a little bit, clients might be quite rude to me, and just say, look, I don't have time to talk, and snap. And I know that they've got no oxytocin. I lean forward and I just go, you poor thing, you look so overworked at the moment. Just allow me to take over. I just want to give you an amazing experience. And you're always protected with compassion.
Yeah.
Always protection, because it's love is love. And so many people don't have it. And it's freely to give away if you mean it. I don't give it away to anyone. I don't give it away freely. But I talk about love a lot because I have a lot of love around me. So we'll go to the next slide.
Perfect timing.
Self-love. I know. Oh my God. So self-love. Your intention drives your attention. And I love this. I got this from I'm so blessed. I've got most of my guests are my mentors. My guests are my clients. And one of my beautiful clients and very good friends, John, gave me this. He's developed 3 startup brands and sold 2 of them off. He's really successful. Your intention drives your attention. So if your intention is to sell, yeah, your client will feel that you're selling. But if your intention is to truly help that person feel good, they will feel it. When I teach a class, my intention is to help my class lift in skill and most importantly in confidence. And my students feel it. So you've got to bring your empathy. I bring my empathy because I don't know what my client's carrying. And you know, again, you have to have boundaries. Not everything's meant for your ears. If someone tells me something that's outside my capacity, or I really don't have any more room for that, I will suggest that, hey, look, I think that, you know, what you've just shared with me, you need someone professional to really help you through this. And I kind of guide them and say, you know, I don't have the qualifications to give you an answer. Because we sometimes hairdressers feel like we've got to help our client, but I'm not a psychologist. I love psychology and I study it a lot, but we've got to listen and really get people. So I love that. I really like to get my client, understand her. Solve a meaningful problem. It's really important. Coexist with your team. So you're there as a team. I like to coexist with my client, coexist as a team. And I ask myself, how can I have better empathy every single day? Because I've been caught out many, many times, not perfect. And you know, someone snaps and you know, you might be tired and you hear something and you're thinking, and then you hear the backstory and you're like, wow, the universe has really just woke me up there. So self-love, self-kindness. And again, if you do this with me for 2 minutes, quickly. Come on, let's do it. Let's do it for 2 minutes. And you at home, come on, stop eating. What's this? So if you do this for 2 minutes, and when you stop, right? When you stop, and I did this in a class in Sydney, and I'll use his name, Pat. He's got big muscles. He was doing this. And I was like, no, Pat, you can do that at home. Here we're doing this. And all the girls in the class are watching him because he was really enjoying feeling his muscles. Now, if you do this for 2 minutes, and we can stop now, just release your arms in front of you. And if you just still in your arms, you'll feel a tingling sensation up your arms, moving up your arms. And that, my friends, oxytocin.
Awesome.
But if you do it for 2 minutes, it's like butterflies in your arms. And every time I feel like I'm not being nice to myself, I do that. Because sometimes we will work in front of ourselves. And I want you to, you know, when you're eating tonight, I want you to taste the food. I do this ritual when I brush my teeth. I spend 4 seconds on each tooth. And I just want to make sure I clean each tooth. But what I'm doing is I'm not in my mind. I'm brushing my teeth.
Yeah.
I want to get out of my head. And so when I'm eating, enjoy the food that was prepared for me, or you know, by my beautiful wife, or for eating out, I want to enjoy the flavors. It just brings me to the present moment. And I think sometimes we're eating for the sake of energy and we're not loving it. We're just eating for the sake of energy, and we burn our mouth because we're eating for the sake of energy. So I think it's about loving yourself. So we'll go to the next slide. Fixed mindset. So fixed mindset, this is hilarious, by the way. This is what a fixed mindset person says and ruminates. I'm either good at it or I'm not. When I'm frustrated, I give up. I don't like to be challenged. When I fail, I'm not good. Tell me I'm great. That's a lot in hairdressing. If you succeed, I'm threatened. I make excuses for my results. Now, I hear that a lot. I get 1,000 stories about why that, when I say that, I get a lot of stories for why that didn't work out. And ultimately, it is what it is. It didn't work out. And how can I learn from it? That's a growth mindset. So we'll go to the next one. A growth mindset person, I can learn from anything I want to. When I'm frustrated, I keep going. And that's part of that learning pit. When you go into a learning pit example, everyone will go through a pit when they're doing something new. But it's how do I get out of that pit? Well, I've got to be determined. I've got to know I'm working for my future. Yeah, because I don't want to stay at the bottom of that pit. It's nothing good. That's real current affairs stuff down there. And so I want to challenge myself. When I fail, I learn. This is a really big one. When I fail, I learn. Tell me and I'll try harder. So I love that growth mindset. And I have a lot of my students like this, which I'm inspired by that language. If you succeed, I'm inspired.
Awesome.
Okay. So I love your success is my success and my success is your success. It's a shared success because I love seeing people do well when they've worked hard for it. My efforts and attitude is everything. So it's about being really responsible. So it's a very different mindset. One's victim and one's ownership. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so we're always assessing each other. So when we have clients, and this is the alpha versus beta story. Alpha, if you're around someone, and you're generally what happens is if you're nervous around someone, then they're the alpha. So you can feel them trying to dominate you. And reverse, if you're around someone and you witness they're nervous, then you're the alpha. They're the beta. So they wear nice clothes, alphas, to show success. Alphas think, who can I dominate? It's all about demonstration. A beta's in service, saying who's stronger than me, who's dominant over me, and who can I dominate? And that's ultimately what everyone's thinking in life, because we're all creatures, world that we live in. And it's, that's why we get insecurities, because people feel like around someone else, they don't feel themselves, they don't feel comfortable because they're around someone that's trying to dominate them. And I learned this early on in hairdressing as well. I felt there were some clients, my personality just wanted to dominate. And I just kept on telling myself, dude, why? It was just instinctive. And now it's just about being at one with my guests and level. And if my client wants to dominate me, I'm okay with that. I'm going to ask some really intellectual questions and let them know they're in the care of someone that's very present and they can feel safe in my care. But they don't have to treat me like an Oompa Loompa. And so I do make sure that I ask really good questions, and I don't get threatened by questions. Actually, if anything, I get more entertained. And so I'm not going to lower my self-worth by someone saying something. They don't know who I am. Yeah. And I see far too many people around a beta and they think they're less worthy of themselves because of what someone said. It's what we tell ourselves that's most important. So we're always assessing one another. And if you're an alpha, be a humble alpha. And if you're a beta, be the best beta. So we'll go to the next one.
Awesome. Well, you wouldn't believe it.
I know. I was like this. I was like, look at this. We've made it. Yes, on time.
We've made it. So
that was great. That was really good.
And I was going to say thank you so much to everyone who's joined in. We've had some fabulous comments from people really enjoying the messages that have been shared here with us tonight. And that I've got Linda has said her ears absolutely love what they're hearing. So Dario, thank you. That has been awesome. And for everyone that can see on the screen here, class number 5. So class 5 of 8 is all about 7 steps. And Dario, would you like to give everyone just a sneak snippet of what they can expect for next week?
Love to. So next week really is the key ingredients in the consultation. So this is really the meat in what we're presenting to you over the 8 weeks. And so the 7 steps is really about the 7 customer experience steps in leading to a really successful retention and happy experience for both you and your guests. And it's one that we've just put together from many years of work to make sure it's finite for you to get a really clear picture on how to elevate and lift our game in hairdressing. For me, that's what it's all about. We've got to show younger addresses the way forward, not talking about the past, but showing them the way forward into the future. And this is a great to bring and invite a whole team so that you can have a conversation afterwards and really challenge the way you're working. Because if we're not challenging ourselves, we're not changing. And I don't like living in the past. So it's a really exciting session.
Awesome. Amazing. I will bring us back.
Wow.
So thanks so much, Dario. That's been another awesome, fabulous masterclass that you've given us there. And we would love to have everyone back for class 5, that meaty part of where we're getting to with our consultation masterclasses. So we'll be back at the exact same time next Wednesday. And make sure you do check out the classes that we've already had. They are all recorded and available for you underneath our series, Consultation Masterclass. So that's a wrap. Thanks, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Awesome session.